Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Great. So my name's Jenni Ogden, as she said, and I'm the founder of IQ Productions. And we specialize in immersive design and storytelling and impact entertainment. So that's our passion. We have a really interesting panel today, encouraging a culture of innovation and a really kind of diverse set of skills here. So we're going to have a little fun with that and throw a lot of questions. We have Jack McCauley. He's the founder, co-founder, and original engineer of Oculus VR. So how many people here had the DK1 or DK2 headsets early on? I know I did, so that'll be an interesting conversation. We have Jeffrey Berthiaume. I know I'm going to say that right. Jeffrey Berthiaume, he's with Southwest Airlines, Chief of Innovation. And then we have from George Rendell from Siemens Digital Industry Software. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves and give us a little more background. Do you want to start, Jack?
Sure. Thank you for attending. It's an honor to be here. So my name is Jack McCauley, co-founder of Oculus VR. I currently teach at UC Berkeley. That's why I'm wearing this hat. I always do a hat tip to UC Berkeley. I'm also an alumni. I teach vehicle engineering, actually, nothing to do with VR. And I spent the past 10 years after leaving Oculus working on cybersecurity, climate change, of course, electric vehicle stuff. That's kind of what I'm doing now. Thank you.
I'm Jeffrey Berthiaume. I'm a senior innovator at Southwest Airlines. What we do is we get different projects coming in from different groups that have some sort of problem, and we use technology, put it together, try to fix things, try to make things better, try to improve performance, time, that sort of thing. And we'll use almost any technology that's available and just try to put it together with duct tape and glitter and make it work. And so then afterwards we figure out what worked, what didn't work, and then other groups will take it and actually apply it to production. So for the most part, we do POCs, we do prototypes, and that's where we stop within this.
Good afternoon, I'm George Rendell. I'm responsible for product management, the product roadmap, and customer success for the Siemens NX product, which is a mechanical CAD or mechanical engineering product. Somewhat new to XR, we just released our XR module on Friday. So pretty happy to be here, probably representative of the enterprises that were talked about in the keynote yesterday that need to move forward and get exciting.
Great. So I'm going to start with just the word innovation, because everybody throws it around and they use it in different contexts. And so I'm going to ask each of you, what is innovation to you, and how do you create a culture of innovation within your organization?
Would you like me to start?
Sure, it can go in any order.
I wouldn't say that it exactly rolls out using the word innovation like that. Mm-hmm. In my case, I was brought in to help produce products. I'm a producer guy, engineer, but I actually do the production and manufacturing. And first of all, it starts off with good hires. I'm very fortunate to work with talented and artistic people in particular, since I worked in entertainment. I'm very fortunate to work with those kinds of people. Not that I hired all of them, but it's like when I don't have a resume. I never had one because the group of people I worked with very small. I worked in video games. And so I would get a call usually from a colleague or a friend saying, you know, come to this place and check it out what we're doing. It's exactly what happened with Oculus, incidentally, and Guitar Hero. So it's not like we try to innovate. It's just sort of rolls out that way, and it sort of originates that way on its own. So good, talented people have good ideas usually, and experienced people would be considered a gray hair, have a lot of experience, and so that combination would be considered innovative, I think. Thank you.
Right.
So for me, innovation is just anything that most people might not necessarily have thought of that can help change the end result. So an example being boarding process. I'm sorry, I work for an airline, so I think about it all the time. But, just the way we're boarding things. Maybe there's something, we have a standard way that we've been doing it for 53 years now, right? But could we do something that might improve things? Because the slightest improvement could shave 30 seconds off of a flight. Well, let's say that's in the morning. That impact cascades throughout the rest of the day. And our planes have multiple places that they have to be. And so if one slows down, it's going to affect everything further on throughout the day. So little tiny things, it doesn't have to be technology. So innovation could be, let's change where family boarding comes in. Maybe if we do this and we help people get to their seats faster, that will help smooth things out. So now then, from our side, of course, we're always looking for the tech thing that we can put in. But still, we try to keep it as low tech or friction-free for the most part for people.
Similar to Jack and Jeffrey, I'd say innovation starts with the team and also creativity that people don't expect. We're in a very driven environment, long-standing company, so it's difficult to create a culture where the innovators, the humans in our team, have a chance to do something that we don't expect. And what we're looking for is to do something that the industry doesn't expect in our product line, that gives customer value, and that is a competitive differentiator. And carving that out of our driven environment is one of the key strengths that we're trying to do.
Great. Yeah, so very similar but different ideas of what innovation is. So I know that for the Producers Guild, we did an innovation award. And so I was part of creating that, and that was innovation in storytelling. So everybody's using innovation in a slightly different way, but all applicable. So anyways, I'd love for you guys to unpack a little bit more about your current roles, and maybe we can mix it up and have George start.
Sure. Part of the reasons why I'm here is historically in the mechanical CAD industry, we've been doing traditional boxy product-looking graphics on the screen. And we announced a little bit earlier this year that we were partnering with one of our customers, Sony. They have a expo and they're showing off the new headset that they're working on that'll be released later this year. And on the software side, we've innovated to create an XR or an NX immersive application that first shipped last week, and that we'll have another update here in about 2 months. And so really driving from traditional mechanical engineering into the XR environment.
Okay, great. And you had a video that you wanted to share as well,
Yeah,
right?
if we can, it'll give you insights into the hardware as well as the software.
It's immersive. Together, Siemens and Sony are introducing immersive engineering, harnessing the technology of mixed reality to make engineering fun and expand the possibilities of the industrial metaverse, combining the real and digital worlds in the most natural way. A transformative head-mounted display from Sony and powerful industrial software from Siemens, with stunning visual fidelity and all new controllers for precise engineering workflows, putting innovation and imagination at your fingertips. Move beyond today's limitations to collaborate, create, and manipulate across teams in a borderless, immersive workspace from anywhere in the world. Immersive engineering in the industrial metaverse, powered by Siemens NX, enables us to design better, collaborate seamlessly, and validate faster. How fast? As fast as the fastest companies on the planet. We're giving racing engineers next-gen tools to collaborate with technicians and drivers themselves. And even when we're the first to cross the finish line, the most exciting thing is we know we're just getting started. Technology to transform the everyday for everyone.
So the video highlights a pre-release of the Sony headset that's down in the expo in the booth. And what we've done is partner with Sony, traditionally a customer of Siemens NX, to innovate on the software side and be able to drive through NX, the mechanical engineering and the Unreal Engine into the headset environment. And then what you saw was one of our customers, Red Bull, mixing that XR experience with their traditional mechanical CAD and looking at their real product at the same time. So pretty excited to merge out of the, let's say, the legacy mechanical engineering and participate today in the XR conference.
Great. And Jeffrey, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what you're working on?
Yeah, thanks, George. I get to follow that. No video, though. But, okay, so I was going to talk about a couple of the projects that I've worked on just to give you an idea of what we do in innovation. So the biggest one, the one that's public, is we did a big project in the Atlanta airport where we took over 4 gates. We changed a lot of things about it, but they're subtle for passengers, but we changed all the digital signage. We added new digital signs on top of the stanchions. If you line up A, B, and C group, we actually put screens on top of them. The ticketing agents and the ops agents were able to control some software on an iPad. When they did it, it would instantly change all the signs, so you'd know what gate you're in, because if you hear Flight 1342 is delayed, you're like, oh, is that mine? I don't know. Passengers don't think that way. Employees do. And so this way, it just gives people those visual indicators and lets them know something important is happening related to me. I need to pay attention to this. And like I said, there were lots of little things in this passenger movement project which would help speed up that turn, get people on board, get them off board faster. And I believe we ended up shaving off around 2 minutes of time, which is a significant financial impact for the company. But switching gears, something else that I did right before the pandemic, we had the provisioning guys and the flight attendants were wondering about basically alcohol sales and everything else. And we don't really track it that well because we don't need to. You know how Southwest is. We were just having a good time, right? But they said, we want to be able to see, normally plane comes in, provisioning guys come up and they just refill whatever is missing, but we had no way of tracking it. And so they came to our group and said, can we have some sort of thing that will let us do this? And so I put together an augmented reality machine learning application, let them pull out the drawers and it just automatically scanned, would take a photograph behind the scenes so I could upload it to Amazon and, you know, retrain my models and stuff like that. It was trying to identify cans through piles of ice and stuff like that. Worked really well. And then in March, the pandemic hit. And so we just basically stopped all that stuff. But it's the type of projects that we'll get. Sometimes we'll have a 2-week turnaround. Sometimes we'll have a few months. The passenger movement one ended up going on extensively over about 2 years of different innovative things that we kind of bundled all together into one thing. But that's kind of how it works.
Great. And Jack, I don't even know where to start. You're doing so many things. You want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with Berkeley?
Sure. About 5 years ago, I have a R&D facility, and we built a little hybrid EV. It's got a gasoline engine on it, and it's got 2 electric motors on the wheels and some batteries and so forth. So you ride it like an ATV. It's like an off-road vehicle, right? And so I became interested in EVs and finding out what makes them tick and so forth. In the process of doing that, I learned about the motor design, the motor physics, all of these things I studied in depth. Turns out that they have offered a class at Berkeley teaching this very same thing, so it was a good fit for me. So I'm doing that. I teach there in the fall, usually. I take the spring and winter off, pretty much. And then I mentioned the cybersecurity stuff. Now, this is the origin of that is I was under cyber attack. My organization was for a sustained period on and off. And I won't get into the nature of what it was, but we found out who was doing it. And it was a colleague of mine that was doing it. So we endeavored to try to protect ourselves. And I know nothing about cybersecurity, nothing. To protect ourselves from that and to find out what kind of mechanisms that were being used. And so what we found out, this is interesting, is that the vulnerabilities of an access point, you know, in your house you have a wireless access point with antennas coming out of it. They're highly vulnerable. And they do an attack called a DAuth attack, and I'll show you what can do it. Excuse me. If I can get it out of my pocket here. This little board here, I bought this on Amazon. And it'll deauthorize you from your website, so that you have to log back in. And when you log back in, I get your password. I bought the software for doing this. I downloaded it from a site called GitHub, and it exposed all kinds of vulnerabilities. Fortunately, you can only do it once on one access point because they've learned to recognize the deauth command, and they block you from doing it. But this is quite dangerous. Do not use your bank passcode for your Wi-Fi access point. Do not use that. Do not use your kids' names, Johnny 13 or whatever. Don't do that. Use a complicated passcode. There's passcode generators, which are really hard to crack. And make sure you use different passcodes for different parts of your life. So this is what we discovered. The second thing, I'll just get into this a little bit. We looked at climate change, right? You've heard about it's getting warmer everywhere, right? It turns out it is. My team collected the data from just about every weather station in the United States, from NOAA, which is a government organization, also from the most reliable places to get weather information are from irrigation districts, like agricultural places, right? And indeed, it's getting warmer, but it's not CO2. This is what we found. Not a popular opinion. I'd shared among other people, my colleagues and so forth, and it appears to be water vapor, which is a greenhouse gas, a powerful greenhouse gas. The example I'll give you is you go into a humid place like Mexico and down on the coast, and you get hot. It's 81 degrees, but you're just getting really, really hot. That's because the heat transfer is occurring from the air into your body, and the water's condensing on you. So this is the experiment we ran, and I'll just stop after this. I've got using up all the time. So the parts per million for CO2 in the atmosphere is around 370. So out of a million air molecules, little pieces of air molecules, 370 of those are CO2. If an air molecule was the size of a ping pong ball, which is like 1 5/8 inch, laid end to end, it would go 26 miles. A million of them would go 26 miles. Of that, 50 feet are CO2. That's what you're talking about. It's very small. And in looking at, the other thing we looked at was like research grants, like who's issuing research grants to study CO2? And it turns out that we know what's causing climate change, and what's causing it, it's called research grants. You better find out what they're looking for. You're not getting any more money. It's kind of a convoluted thing. They give you money to find things, and if you don't find what they're looking for, you probably won't get more money. And so universities and so forth are dependent upon grants coming in from various organizations. So I'm not making it political. This is just what we found. The most startling thing was the cybersecurity thing that really opened my eyes. That we were able to stream off a camera inside your house the images. I could, from a car parked in the parking lot with a Kali Linux laptop using Wireshark, a program I downloaded from GitHub. So that's how insecure it is. So these are the things I've been working on. Thank you.
And there it is from an inventor. All sorts of things. And that's really interesting about climate change, because the project I'm currently working on, I think I mentioned earlier, is a climate storytelling project. So anyways, so that is super interesting and super frightening. I wanted to talk a little bit, well, George, you already talked a little bit about your Sony partnership. Do you want to deep dive into that a little bit further? Or?
Sure, if I can, and maybe tying back to the culture of innovation. We've had a Siemens NX virtual reality module for some years.
Okay.
And you have to have a willingness to kill your own product, eat your own young, to do something better. And so what we had to do, or what I had to do on the product management side, was say that product really wasn't getting things done. It was a one-directional translation out to a virtual environment, but no ability to do engineering change, design review, or interaction with other products. And so willingness to say, that module's done, we're going to transfer to something new, and then really put together the right team of people to mix things up. You obviously, with the product that's doing well in the market, you have people passionate about continuing it. So we're able to take our traditional graphics team, had an acquisition from a company called Lightworks in the UK, put them together, and then decided to work with our customer partner, Sony, to do joint development. And really by putting those three groups of people together in a way that we hadn't before, we had innovation sparked across that team. We had a goal for them to do something, and they've really overachieved. You saw a mock-up of the virtual screen in the video, so that'll be released here at the end of the year. And really combining the old VR with the AR to the promise of what XR is really what we're headed for the release of the combination of the hardware with the Sony partnership and the software update from Siemens NX. Thank you.
Great. Great.
Once again, I get to follow George on this, and he gets to do stuff that will actually go into the marketplace and people will actually see and play with, which is awesome. Our stuff is it's more like we're building digital snowmen. We're building stuff, we're trying things out, but then at the end of every project, success or fail, it goes away. An actual production team is not going to take our stuff because we have to move too quickly for these things. And so we have a very good deal with our cybersecurity team that they know that we play outside of the sandbox and we do our own thing and we get to try all the new stuff, but we promise not to ever let it infect any of the actual production stuff. So our code never goes anywhere. Nobody else is going to take it and use it. They're just going to look and say, okay, the overall idea, the story, the interaction, let's get maybe some of the usability off of it. Oh, they did something clever with some sort of design thing that we can apply, but internally then it's all going to be AWS and Microsoft and all of the platforms that are official. However, our team, small and mighty, we're doing a lot of stuff, iOS development. When we've got to throw up a digital sign and put information on, tvOS. We stick a little Apple TV, plug it in, it's great. Because it gets all of our data off of Firestore, which also not approved, but we're able to use it for all that great instant communication, 80 devices, all real-time responding to things. Of course, little particle boards that make little lights flash because everybody likes lights. Confetti at the end with little hearts because, Southwest. That sort of thing.
And it seems like your team and Southwest in general has such a great customer experience and such a fun environment. And I'm hoping that it's part of that environment that you get to work in as well.
Well, so one of our founders says we're not an airline. We're a customer service company that happens to have airplanes. And so that really is. So we talk about things being Southwesty, and it's very much an emotional connection with technology. I mean, we don't do technology for technology's sake, but what's super important is that emotion, that connection for people. And so we try to do that across the board in everything we do.
Great. And then, of course, Jack, I'm sure everybody would be interested in the creation story of the Oculus VR.
Okay, let me tell you how that went down. I try not to take too much time. So, as I mentioned, I don't have a resume because the group of people that I work with, the industry is video games, so it's pretty small. Everyone kind of knows each other. And I always got referrals like, they need this guy over here, this company, THQ or whatever, needs this person to do something for them. You want to go talk to them. But I would hear that not from THQ, and I'd call them and they'd say, hey, you want to talk? So this is precisely what happened with Oculus. The IP attorney I work with, Greg Deutsch at Activision, I worked on Guitar Hero as the head engineer on Guitar Hero. He recommended me to this guy named Brendan Uribe because he said, Brendan wants to show me something. So I go, okay, this is in 2012, June of 2012. I had a broken leg too, oddly enough, and I was in a wheelchair. So Brendan comes by, and he's standing at front of my door, and he has this black thing in his hands and a MacBook, and I go, oh no, what is that thing? And he comes in and he shows it to me, and it's not that I thought the thing was cool. I thought it was okay. I like the guy. He's a really, really great guy. And then I start meeting the other team members, like, who's there? There's this kid, and then there's a couple other guys. And so we had a friends and family investment. I invested in it. And so at that point, I was committed to seeing it finish because I was going to lose my money. Brendan Uribe invested, the CEO, and the other guys didn't have any money. And so Brendan's relatives and stuff, friends and family, like all the friends and family can put money in. Interestingly enough, the woman that worked for me, she was my admin. She didn't have any money. I put $7,500 in for her. I said, $7,500, I won't, it's not that big of a beating if I lose it. And when we sold the business, she ended up with a couple mil out of that. $7,500 to $2 mil. So that's the story. And I produced their headsets for them. That was my job. I have the connections in China, how to make molds and how to get circuit boards, the testing, the materials and everything. All this stuff is heavily regulated. I had that down from working at Activision, and so I was pretty competent at it. The problem we had, though, was we put it on Kickstarter, right? And they had a Kickstarter video. I didn't really have, it was filmed in my facility, but I didn't really have much to do with the dialogue and stuff like that. I was kind of there, but then I found out that there was like 90 days from the time the Kickstarter was filmed until that we were going to launch the product. I had nothing to do with that timeline, but we got it done. But we hustled. I mean, I was working like 75 hours a week trying to get it done. I was in China mostly, but so by the time I got June or so of 2013, we were up to 120 people. And then I start seeing Mark Zuckerberg around. And it's like, what does this guy want? You know, we were in Irvine. You know, what's he had to do? It's an ad company, right? Why is an ad company interested in a hardware product like this? So I had nothing to do with the purchase of the company. I'm an engineer. I was the engineering side, right? Just, you know, transistors and resistors and things like lenses. And then when I'm in China, and I got a call from Brendan, because I knew it was going to go down. Kind of, we befriended a guy at Andreessen Horowitz who was the early proponent of Facebook, and got Andreessen Horowitz to invest in Facebook. That way we could get an intro. I had nothing to do with this. This is my boss. Intro to Mark Zuckerberg. Showed it to him. He loved it. So I got a call. I was 3 o'clock in the morning. I was in, where was I? Dongguan province. And I get a call, China. I got a call, and he goes, guess what? We sold the business, and congratulations. And at that point, I was out. I don't want to work there. I saw the staff at Meta, right? Nice young people, right? They're nice, but I don't fit in. You know, I was old, and I don't know what I would do for them. I'm not a social media guy. I'm a video game guy, a video game designer stuff. So it's not my skill set. I was a skeptic of them indigenously generating the content because I knew that's not what they do. And they should have bought I said, why don't they buy a video game company? Just snag someone up, buy Activision. They could buy Activision. And then they got it, right? Because you let those young guys loose on the content side and they'll nail it. But they didn't do that. And the whole thing was kind of weird, the launch. I was watching it unfold in front of me. It's like people without lower legs. It was very strange. It's not the way it's done. You really control the media and the release of the game. You know, the trailers and stuff are very carefully constructed to attract customers, and it wasn't done that way. It's very unusual. So that's the story of Oculus in a nutshell. I'm very fortunate to have known those guys, especially Brendan. Incidentally, here's another story. I will finish up with this. I go to Brendan's house in Venice. You know, the guy's like a billionaire, right? So he's got this nice place there. And I go to his house, and he goes, someone's been flying a drone on my bedroom window. And I go, who would do that? You know, I mean, that's really nasty. So what I did is I had my staff send out mailers to a 1 mile radius near his house, and we found out who it was. We got the guy. But then I was inclined to try to combat that. You know, like, what if these things are dangerous? You've seen those videos from Ukraine where they're flying those things into tanks and stuff. It's like, they're so easy to take out. And I was always wondering why don't you just do this? You could take those things out, right? So I built something to do that. Handheld thing, you point it at the drone and it takes it out. So because I was afraid of this guy who I know really well flying one of these things into my house and taking pictures of me. Not that he'd want that. 65-year-old guy, I don't think he'd want a picture of me. But so I did that, and then I started like marketing a little bit, and I got hits from various countries, and then I got in trouble, a little bit of trouble with the government because I didn't know, I can't just sell stuff to people. It's defense related, right? So there's all these rules you have to adhere to, and I didn't know. I just did it. So anyways, that's the story of Oculus, and a little sideline into the drone blaster thing. So thank you.
So, Jeffrey, is Southwest looking into a lot of AI solutions, or are you integrating that into any of your products or services?
Oh boy. Yes. We actually have a number of positions open right now for AI in the software architecture and enterprise architecture group to try to define what those rules are within the organization. We also, one of the first things, it took them a couple of months, a lot of stuff with legal, but that we have a software policy for AI as well about how we're going to use it internally and everything else. None of which really applies to us, though, because we're in the innovation team and we get to try all the stuff anyway and use it. And so our entire team are mostly senior developers. And so we've got a little bit, we've all been in the industry for 30-some years. We've all been building stuff that's public apps and, so we understand how we should use stuff and what we shouldn't do, and not to put IP into ChatGPT or something and then have it get spit out again, like I think Samsung had a problem with that. And so anyway, so yes, in a lot of different ways we're looking for this stuff. But it doesn't matter, because literally every product that we have that we use now has an AI version of it anyway. And so it's just, and AI gets used as a word for so many different things. But data-wise, we've got people who are doing data modeling and trying to come up with different machine learning algorithms to try to figure out things like network planning and network conflicts and things like that. So it's all throughout the organization in all different ways.
I bet. I think most organizations. So, and George, Siemens is such a huge company. How does it intersect with everybody probably in this audience and everybody on the panel?
That's a great question. Most of our customers, anybody that's carrying a smartphone, majority of those are made by customers of Siemens NX. So probably all of you touch a product created by one of my customers every day. You asked a little bit about AI. We've actually had AI in the NX product for about 4 years. We took an AI algorithm that looks at the current state of a system and then predicts what the next command the user may need to do is. Most software tracks the old stuff. So what we did was look at the state of the geometry on the screen for the user and then predict the next 10 commands that the user might need to do, and have used that as a way for our customers to take knowledge from retiring engineers and bring that to the younger generation. So we can actually set up the workflow on a specific task at hand and then predict or guide the user through those steps. And so AI is everywhere. And of course, what we're looking to do is tie AI back into the XR stuff that we just introduced.
Great. So, and then of course AI, Jack, you're looking at AI in video games, correct?
Yeah. So before I launch into this, I'll explain how they're built. Now, granted, I haven't worked in the industry for a long time, but this is the way it was done 10 years ago. So if you have an idea for a game, it starts with a storyboard, just like a couple sheets of paper on an easel, and you explain the story of the game to the producer or to the game studio. Like, this is how it's going to flow. This is what happens here. So for that, a game is not a visual thing. Part of it is, like the really nice graphics and stuff don't make a good game. What makes a good game is strategy and goal setting. That's how you build a good one. And now you have the component of the social component where you're playing people online. So you've got that added part too, like the human factor part plus the story. It's much like a movie. It's the way it's done. Now, can AI do that? I suppose it's not being done right now. To my knowledge, it's not the way it's done. What AI can be used for is creating game artifacts. Like in GTA 5, Grand Theft Auto 5, that's Take-Two's game. That's a huge hit. It's a giant hit. All the artifacts in the game are done by hand in AutoCAD, right? It would be nice just to describe what you want to Midjourney or some other application API and have it generate the game artifact and then have to be able to import it into the game instead of having all those artists draw it and write it. I think that'll have the greatest impact. Incidentally, just another quick story. I met a talent guy, a talent scout in Hollywood, talent scout just a couple days ago. And he was telling me that AI is going to impact the acting component significantly. Like you said that, I think you'll be able to replay a scene or redo a scene very quickly instead of setting up a set with lighting and all that. So Not so sure about the game part, except for artifact creation. The storytelling part, maybe, but right now that's done by an experienced game guy, a seasoned guy who knows how to write a game or write the script for a game. And so for Grand Theft Auto 5, there was 300 artists working on it, 300 people. All those jobs are going to be gone, you know, and now we have people running on a computer. And I also remember when I started my career, there was these people called typists, right? And what happened to the typist? They got replaced with a PC, right? They found other jobs, right? But typist went away. There used to be a person that you give them a form and they'd type it in. Those jobs are all gone. Similarly, I think AOI impacted jobs significantly. Telemarketing and customer support, customer service, that's will have the greatest impact. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if you've seen Blockade Labs. That's definitely video game oriented and VR oriented, and then 11 Labs for voiceover. So there's something for everything.
So I was going to say saddle makers and bridle makers also lost a lot of jobs when, you know, horses started being phased out. But we've been playing around with things. KDIM that was doing, you basically send them a photograph. They say they AI generate, but I think they've actually got teams of people really quickly building stuff. Because I sent them something and I was like, I just want to see what the back would look like. And I was like, there's no way that it had interpreted that properly because I didn't give it just like a chair or something. I gave it something complicated. Chat 3D, there's a company in Canada that's doing it as well. And they're just building up these big libraries of things that they can kind of assemble and then modify, grab some textures and put them on. It's great for thumbnails, for storyboarding. You know, let's put some stuff together. But then if you're going to get in his world and do actual production type stuff, then you're going to need the guys still to go in and actually make the real solid models. I don't need a 200 meg, you know, thing to download. I want the 25 meg version that's good enough for speed and then fill in more detail. And we had people talking about the fashion stuff. That stuff needs to be more accurate. So there's still room. There's still room for people.
Oh, absolutely. There always is. Technology, innovation, it's all a tool for our creative minds to figure out what to do with it and to guide it. So do you have any other final thoughts on that subject?
Just pleased to be part of the panel, I guess, is where I'm at mentally. But yes, implementing AI, less about the generation of mechanical engineering and physics models and more about workflow productivity, taking the tedious steps away from the user, but really still allowing the user to create and focus on the design that they're making, whether it's the mobile phone and automobile or the turbine engines that are in all the Southwest airplanes come from an ex-customer. So,
Wow, that's cool. Any other current trends that you guys are paying attention to or are starting to look at utilizing in your careers?
Well, as I mentioned, I work in vehicle stuff at Berkeley, totally unrelated to my career field, but I love cars. So I think I'll just explain something very quickly. For every 100 calories of gasoline that you put into your vehicle, your gas car, 29 calories go to move it. The rest is heat. In an electric vehicle, it's 90% efficient. So it's, of course, they're different, they're electrons, but for every 1,000 electrons or 100 electrons, 90 of those go into moving the wheels. So I'm intrigued by this. I like that kind of stuff, like making things more efficient. And so I've endeavored to work in that field now, and I fully understand it. It's changing the nature of automobiles. I know that there's a lot of negative stuff. I have a Tesla. I can't stand that thing. It's a weird car. It's like there's no windshield wiper. To turn the windshield wipers on, you have to go to the touch screen. It drives me nuts. But that's just me. My wife loves it, though. So, but I have another electric vehicle I drive. It's just like a regular car, and I love the thing. So the convenience also, you just plug it in at my house and charges it up. I've never had it into the dealership once since 2019 for work. So that's the upside of it. The downside, of course, is numerous, particularly with infrastructure problems. Like most of your houses that are built in Long Beach have what's known as a 100 amp service. That's all they can do. They're old little tiny houses. You need 200 amp service to charge an EV, and that requires a wiring upgrade inside your house. So this is really challenging. And so it's sort of pointing its way to charging stations as a means to get the vehicle charged up. So if all cars in California were EVs, we could never support it with the infrastructure here. So it's going to be gasoline for a long time, with slowly but surely EVs coming up in the market. I love efficiency. The environmental part of it, I don't know much about that, but this is the thing. The other thing I found out, and I'll just briefly talk about this. What's the most efficient fuel? What is the most efficient carbon-based fuel? Anyone want to take a guess? It's coal. Coal is so cheap. For the equivalent amount of energy, let's say you have 1 ton of coal, right? You need, for 1 ton of coal, you need 173 gallons of gasoline to have the equivalent energy. The gasoline costs $544. The coal costs $60. That's the intriguing part. I know China gets criticized for coal burning, but it's a very good fuel. It's polluting, though. You know, you have to have it scrubbed and so forth. So this is what I'm interested in now. So
That's what you think about. That keeps you up.
drones too.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, you're not going to want to go after me, but
Okay.
go ahead.
Similar to the appropriation of XR into mechanical CAD that I already talked about, the other thing that we're doing on the NX side to branch out of traditional MCAD is the integration with electronics and electrical cabling. So similar to tie into the cars and electric circuits, computers and electric circuits, where traditionally those were separate, 3 separate systems, we're now integrating those things into Siemens NX, similar to the way that I've described that we're adding the NX Immersive Engineering module. So trying to grow and integrate, but still based on the same platform, the same digital twin that our customers have, making it more useful in their world. Over to you, Jeffrey.
Okay. So there are 2 things that I've been playing with that you will not have probably guessed from what I had been talking about before. One of them, doing a lot of stuff looking into exoskeletons. And we've got guys that are in the heat or in the cold that are throwing bags and wrenching their arm and getting in trouble. Can we do things that are going to help them not do that? Because that will help with insurance, that will help with healthcare bills. It just, again, it's got a cascade effect that's really good. And so we have been looking at and exploring different things, from little hydraulics that people can wear, but they constrain your movement, which is a dangerous safety issue, so we don't like that. But that's one of the things that we're trying to do, and I've actually kickstarted a couple of things as well that are coming out, just to be able to play with this and try to find what things can we give to the people that work for us that help make them better at what they do, not impact them with like a bunch of stuff, because they don't want that. And we've got people who are like, I don't want this new technology. Then we've got these young kids coming in who are like, hook me up. What is this? Let's try it. We played with the moonwalkers from Shift Robotics. Walking in those, you know, they've got the wheels on them. They're not roller skates. You just stand like normal. But as you start to walk, it starts to just give you that little extra. It's almost like being on a moving sidewalk. Well, that's great for the guys under the airport that are on the tarmac. There's no lanes. You just basically go across to wherever you stay out of the areas that are basically have the red lines where the planes go. But otherwise, you know, getting them to move faster and get things done, that's great. And then one of the other things that I've been playing with for the past couple of years, but the technology isn't there yet, is quantum computing. And so going through all of the quantum computing algorithms that are coming out and saying, okay, but can I apply? I've got all of this flight data. Wouldn't it be neat? So I play around with some of that stuff, or I'll generate some mock data, and I start running it through these algorithms. Just AWS has a way to kind of simulate it, and so we can see, are we getting anything out of it? But this is like 10 years, 20 years down the line, right? But this is where we're going to be going, and we have to be aware of it and kind of play with it and be familiar with it so that when people come to us and ask us about it, we can, you know, say, well, we've done these demos. Here's another one you wouldn't have thought of us. We've played with the blockchain a lot. All the way from can we do cryptocurrency for things, which we can't because our margins are so small. That's why we also don't do other currencies as well. That's why we don't fly internationally, because there's a whole lot of problems that would come with that. But then we said, well, what if we have parts that we're trying to manage and put that on a blockchain so we can track basically effectively farm to table for a device, so you can look at a plane and get all of that information, get all the maintenance for the history of just this one thing inside of a plane. And so Boeing is doing the majority of that, and we get to use the Boeing stuff, but we've still explored that as well. So
That's great.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to make you the most popular guy in the room. You're recruiting, right?
So yes, we're actually recruiting specifically for AR, VR stuff. We've got a lot of experience building iOS apps and tvOS apps and everything else, but we need help with visualizing stuff in an augmented reality environment, mixed reality, that sort of thing. And so we're looking for kind of a generalist, a senior person who knows how to put things together, but also isn't afraid of learning how to put together some AWS Lambdas to grab that data and be able to use it. Although the rest of our team can pretty much put those together. But that sort of thing. We're makers. So just in the past week, we have a team of people that are putting together bag sizers we have a machine shop that we use, a metal shop and stuff. And so we're actually building these physical things that we're installing, and, you know, particle boards then, and all sorts of stuff. We do soldering classes for the team, and some of the cyber guys come over and they're like, hey, we want to play with some of the innovation stuff. And so we kind of taught them how to solder, and we're putting these things together, testing the boards. So it's all over. It's hard to describe innovation because it's so everything, but that's what we do.
Great. Well, I think we have less than 10 minutes left. So does anybody have any questions?
We have about 7 minutes left, and if you wouldn't mind just going to the microphone in the center of the room there.
So this is kind of a question for all three of you. When it comes to power consumption and AI and large language models, have you looked into neuromorphic computation as a way to save power and use these large language models and large machine learning models in a more efficient way? So it's based on the brain and the way the brain architecture, so it's a lot more efficient. So I just wanted to know if you've looked at it at all. I know there's been a lot going on in Europe, but not so much locally, and I'm wondering if you've gotten a chance to take a look at it and explore it.
I'll take this one, and you guys can take it too. So this is a really, really good question, because it's called the routing problem. It's a classic problem. If you're a delivery driver, let's say Amazon, what's the best route for you to get the most bang for the buck? Basically, it's money, right? But it's kind of fuel too. And so figuring out which deliveries to make and when to get fuel and when to take a break and all that, this is a classic routing problem that is, you know, that's perfect for AI. You know, trying to figure out how to make it more efficient. Now, we talk about this. This is not my area in class, so we have another instructor. It's very important in the long run to make things efficiently. I can imagine in air travel too. I mean, I really don't know how the business works very well, but, you know, trying to get them there on time and fill the plane up. This is what I learned, and I'll just say, so they call it miles per gallon per seat. And apparently Alaska has the highest efficiency at 75 miles per gallon per seat. So that's as if you were taking a car, you'd get 75 miles per gallon. I don't know if does that sound familiar to you guys? This is what I was told. So Alaska is efficient, and I think Southwest is pretty efficient, but some of the international carriers are not so great because they don't fill the plane up all the time, especially going to like Indonesia or something like that. So this is a routing issue, and it's a very good question.
The answer for that is cargo, by the way. That's how you fill up the plane and use it. But yeah. Okay, so I'm a user for that. So we had this one project where we were taking flight data and trying to create an LLM. Instead of using words as tokens, what if we used our data as tokens and we tried experimenting? That was one of the things that failed. It did not work at all. And the problem mostly was we needed an insane amount of data and we just did not have it. So our model, the training just wouldn't work. But what I'm looking for, and there are a couple of things out there finally now, I need an LLM on device. And the reason I need that is the flight attendants have been saying we've got this giant manual of stuff, but if I have a problem, searching it is just, it's almost impossible. And so we want a way to interact with it with no hallucinations. The Wi-Fi's down. So that's why it's got to be on device. So it's like little things like that is what we're looking for to fulfill those needs.
Nothing else to add on my side. I'm open for easier questions.
I can help you with that. So I'm Amanda. I work at Brembo, so vehicles. So I definitely have to meet all of you. We're a customer of yours. I do what you do at Brembo, and I also have questions about my boarding process from yesterday. And then go Bears. I also went to Cal, and I sponsor projects there at Brembo. So we should talk about that.
Go Bears.
So my question's about the culture of innovation. I do things at Brembo, from everything from purchasing to manufacturing to machine maintenance. And do you think of it as top down or bottom up works better? Like, do you want the workers, like the people handling baggage, your engineers, to come to you and tell you, I really need this process innovated, can you go out and find me something? Or do you go to conferences, see the latest, coolest things, and then bring them in and try to find an internal buy-in customer?
Oh, I got this one first, if you don't mind. Okay, so we have two different teams. We have the innovation team where we get a problem and we try to figure out what technology we can use. We separately have an emerging trends team. They go out and they find all the cool stuff and they try to figure out a way to apply that. So the moonwalkers, that's an emerging trend. That's a cool device that could be used for something. The alcohol app that I made, they came to us with a problem and I was like, oh, this is going to be a perfect idea for machine learning. So we get to it from both ends, basically. Yeah.
Bit similar perspective from my view. A little bit of a trick question. As an individual contributor, I always waited for leadership to drive innovation. As a leader, I keep waiting for individual contributors to drive innovation. And really the end answer is you gotta, on the leadership side, create the space for people to innovate. And people have to then take the initiative that they're given and realize they have the opportunity. So I think it has to work same as you, in both directions.
Thank you.
How you doing? I'm Nick Turner. I'm the digital strategy lead for a large engineering company, a lot of natural resource type projects. But it came up a lot in an earlier panel, I think a couple of you guys were on, about training. And I kind of find with, any of these digital transformations or technologies are kind of that three-leg stool, right? The people, process, platform. And the platform, the technology is easy, right? Everyone does that, right? It's fun to buy the shiny car. Maybe you can customize it a little bit. But then the process part, right? The standards, the templates, collaboration, getting all that. It's a little harder. Not all companies, maybe half the companies do that well. But you throw enough hours, resources, you can do that, right? But then that people part, and that training, and it came up earlier, that training is kind of hoarded by HR, but that training is so critical to the technology, and is often, like I find very few firms do that adequately, and robustly to, for one, tell the core what the leading edge is doing, so they can be selling that to other clients and be integrating that into their everyday work, and so I'm on the structural evolution committee of the company around technology, and it's kind of, as I looked at those three pieces, I was like, well, the training, that's the one where you actually need structural change in the company to do it. And I was wondering if any of you guys have had luck with that type of thing.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It was going to be a great answer, I'm sure, from all of you, but we are at time and we have to be very strict about it because we are televising these. But I'm hoping that you can maybe be available outside to answer that question, if that's acceptable, or if there are others.
Definitely.
Great. Thank you so much. Please give it a round of applause for our panel.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.